Sully's time, breaking down the stories every view will unwind. From left to right we'll see the light. It's balance we're chasing, no fighters fight. Good is Sully, talking it straight. Let's hear both sides, let's communicate. Politics and reason, let's find the truth. Good is Sully's here to bridge it for you. Debates, insights, it's all on the screen. Good is Sully, keeping it keen. Hit subscribe, stay a while, let's dive in deep with Curtis Sully. The combos you need. The combos you need. Days out with the cheerful whistle and guitar riff. Debates, insights, it's all on the screen. Curtis Selby, keeping it keen. Hit subscribe, stay a while, let's dive in deep with Curtis Selby. The convo's unique. Curtis Selby, talking it straight. Let's hear both sides, let's communicate. Politics and reason, let's find the truth. Curtis Selby's here to bridge it for you. Debates, insights, it's all on the screen. Curtis Selby, keeping it keen. Hit subscribe, stay a while, let's dive in deep with Curtis Selby. The combos unique. The combos unique. The combos unique.
Greetings, everybody. It is I, your tired blogger, Curtis Selby. What blogs in this case at 2:05 p.m. Hope y'all will forgive me. I wanted to watch Blind Fury, Deleted Scenes, and Outlaw Bill. And I got that watched, and then I got this set up. As usual, I'm not as prepared as I ought to be. But you know what? We just do what we can. I think that's what Charlie Kirk did. And he just did it better than the rest of us. Or some of us, anyway. All right, let's say hello to everybody in the chat. And we will get on to the Tired Bloggers tribute to Charlie Kirk and what he had to say, what he thought about our Constitution. Specifically, I don't want to get too derailed on other subjects. Mainly, I just want to talk about what he thought of our Constitution and see how that compares to what we think of the Constitution. It may not be the same. Maybe we'll decide that the leftists are right and he was a big dodo head. But I doubt it. All right, saying hello to everybody in the chat. We've got John Ponerero saying, "E plobnista." This dummy, he owes me money. Saying that I would be on time. I only missed it by a little bit, but still. John is congratulating me on my thumbnail. Thank you very much. I've been using whatchamacallit, Gemini. I still need to learn some Photoshop skills. I wanted something a little different, but this is what it gives me, and that's okay. It's not, a samurai should never blame his tools. If you lost the battle, you should have sharpened your damn sword. And we've got 2 guitar pickers in the house. We've got PvP, Pleasant Valley Picker. Howdy, howdy. He joins us, or has been joining us, on Dark Shadows. I know he is very concerned, and rightfully so, about the state of our life. I just realized that the Gemini got my coffee cut almost perfectly right. The only thing is it should have the book is better on the front of it. We've got Gorilla's Random Thoughts in the house. I'm worried. Heavy Duty Country and others are going to get something started we're all going to regret. The rhetoric from both sides is getting out of hand. It's kind of been out of hand for a long time. It had calmed down some after the election, at least on one side. And then the bullets started flying again. And then I have to throw in my 2 cents. I feared civil strife, since YouTube likes to censor certain words, if Trump were unalived. They missed him and got Charlie Kirk instead. Whoever made that intro song did a bang-up job, I would say. And I agree, he's pretty spiffy. PvP asks the very, very salient question: is America headed to a civil disruption? Because I can't say raw, you know. John Ponerero thinks so. It tends to be a sticking head. I responded with, I hope not, because I don't think I have the strength to survive it. And I don't mean to sound threatening at all. I really don't. God help us all if I do have the strength to survive it. That's all I'm going to say. We need to discuss how to respond on a stream. Well, I don't mind you guys saying that. You know, maybe keep the N-word out. Maybe don't call each other F words that, you know, are pieces of wood that are burned. Beyond that, I don't really care. And the only reason I care about that is because I don't really want this to devolve into insults, you know. But I just am trying to be careful for YouTube. I forgot to demonetize this stream. I'm an idiot. PvP used to have my own voice to amplify the settling down, but my voice is a drop in the million of a pond full of crap. I know how you feel, trust me. PvP, we need to brainstorm strategies on how to combat the left's insanity. Ready for the knees of the guy who owes you money, just say when. You know, it is a joke, so please don't come after me and break my knees. Gorillas is still being censored. Yeah, I figured when you were sharing that. I promise that's either YouTube or StreamYard. I went in and tried to loosen up the censoring stuff, but I guess it's still doing it. I'm just afraid to take it all off because, you know, I don't know. PvP thinks the right rhetoric has been more subdued, and the stuff I've seen, I would agree, but Gorilla's quite possibly is seeing some things that I'm not. One of the great things about having this community is you guys, you know, one of us only sees what our echo chamber sees. All of us together, though, we see a lot. And it's great that we share things. I love that. PvP, the left rhetoric is nuts. Oh, and Gorillas, it censored me saying I have a bat ready. Yes. Yeah, we'd probably censor that. I don't really know if I can go in and fix that. I doubt it, but see, you and I get that that's a joke. YouTube doesn't get it. PvP, I'm not saying that we should fix things with violence, just how do we work toward a better social order? All right, I'm going to shut off the music because while I love this rock music, it also makes my head hurt after a little bit. Gorillas, just look at heavy duty country. You will see there are thousands saying the same thing. So I guess the hardcore right country singers are coming out with stuff. I would assume that makes try that in a small town, which I'm going to confess, I actually like that song. But I had reasonable left leaning friends that didn't like it. So I'm assuming that there's stuff coming out that makes that look like a pleasant debate in the city council. A ready bat. We need Barnabas Collins. Yes, indeed. We do need Barnabas Collins. On that note, let me try something here for just a second. You rang. I wish I could do his voice better. All right. Now I got to get back. Get back. Get back. Get back to where you once belonged. Oh, I may not be able to get back. I thought I was being so clever. So clever. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Heavy duty country. It's a YouTube channel. Ah, I wonder what the dark country. Have you listened to any dark country? There's when I'm in a bad mood, and well, I actually when I'm in a bad mood, I don't do this. But when I'm trying to work out, I like to listen to really dark, heavy stuff. Somehow, for some reason, it inspires me to shut off the pain and work out. But there's something called dark country where it's yeah. it brings out the dark side of us hayseeds. My favorite dark country song is "Somebody's Gonna Need a Grave." And then there's another one, "Hell's Coming with Me," which is, I think, it kind of a tribute to Tombstone, although the music video has nothing to do with Tombstone, and that makes sense. They probably would have been in violation of copyright if they'd even suggested much about Tombstone. The worst I've seen from prominent country singers, according to Gorilla, is telling the people who are celebrating Charlie's death to sit down and shut the blank up. Yep, there is death metal country, and it's not really a new genre. It's about, I would say, 5, maybe 8 years old. My go-to song is "Fighter" by Tom McDonald. My go-to song when I'm working out is "Arsonist's Lullaby," "Ain't Nobody Praying for Me," and "Somebody's Gonna Need a Grave." But believe me, I don't listen to those periodically. And while we're at it, someone who would probably rightfully, but in a respectful and kind way, let me know that I should be listening to more positive stuff. And that's Orville Nation. God bless you, PJ, for being here. Together we grow. This is the man for that kind of thought. So welcome, and I hope that I can do a good job here. Thank you very much. All right, so let's do a little bit of the housekeeping. You know, as always, please like, share, subscribe. All of you guys are subscribed. If anyone is lurking in the background, I would love maybe some members, or maybe before you become a member, listen to a few of my podcasts, see if this is the stuff that you like. But I would love for you to return and listen. And I've got a goal today. I hope that's not crass, but I put up what's probably a difficult goal, 5 super chats of $2 or more. The reason I made that difficult is because it's a difficult thing I'm promising to do if we achieve it. I will do a special stream on how we can peacefully take on, and I should have added the word radical, because I have personally, like Tulsi Gabbard or John F. K. Jr., I love the classical left. I do not want to get rid of or defeat the classical left. But the radicals that are promoting violence and hatred, yes, we need to find a way to take them on. I don't know that I'm the person for that, but I will do my best if you show the interest in it. Like I say, don't waste your money on one great big thing because YouTube doesn't recognize it. I don't mind overcoming my OCD if somebody sends me like a $50 super chat. Okay, you got it. But I would just suggest if you feel led, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 of you send in a couple of bucks, and we'll get that goal, and I'll do my best. I'll do my best. We all know what Sean Connery said about your best. My first girlfriend was the prom queen. She really was. Boy, that relationship went down in flames, and it was my fault. I cannot pin the blame on her. Thank you, Orville Nation. You're very kind. I've often wondered how the heck to get into the radio business. I did email someone recently and got no response. It's probably my fault there too. I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to pimping myself out, if you know what I mean. I'm trying to get better at it, but I appreciate the compliment, Orville. I really do. Thank you. You're very kind. There's always a lurker or 2 or 3. Right on. Right on. Gorillas sent something to me on Twitter. Have a listen after the stream. All right, I'm going to get that set up so that I don't forget, because I am bad at forgetting. Gorillas sent a link. Oh, here we go. Tom McDonald Fighters. All right, but not now. Ooh, boy, I can already tell that's going to be a pumper upper. And let me see. I want to set up a poll before I get too far ahead. What's a good poll to talk about? Here we go. Here we go. Was Charlie Kirk's Socratic style a good method of debating the issues? All right. So that's the question. I don't want just a boring yes or no. Of course, listening to a tired blogger type, tired blogging. Of course, the Socratic method is the best. I don't have enough letters to type. Socratic method is best. All right. No, questions are stupid. I'd be very surprised if anybody answers that. But just in case there's somebody out there that thinks that, I want to give them the option. He was too contentious. I want to give the other side the chance to have a voice, even though I'm less and less patient with it. And what's the last thing? It was best. Why he was silenced. All right. There's the poll. This time I'm not going to vote in it because I think I should probably pay more attention to the stream itself. You guys let me know what you think in that poll. And we're almost through with the chat. Chat's already starting to pop. Gorillas, I was radical until you made me a radical unknown. I don't know what that means, but thank you. PvP. Trouble is, Curtis, the classic left is almost done. The extreme left would even call the traditional left the right wing. Yeah, well, I think that there's reasons, and I want to say this with respect to, because there's still a few people who I respect that do disagree with me about this. Not many, but a few. I think this is why Tulsi Gabbard and Kennedy went to Trump's side instead of Biden / Kamala's side. And this is the thing that frustrated me when I try to talk to my friends about, well, why do you think that they went to the other side? And the answer was always, God, okay, I'm just going to say what's in my heart. This may be unfair, but everything I heard as a response just sounded to me like a bunch of propaganda that they were regurgitating. Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian asset. Uh, Robert Kennedy Jr. is a crazy person who slapped a whale's head on his car and drive 20 or 30 miles to his home with that on his car. And I'm like, you're saying they're crazy, but you sound crazy to me if you actually believe this stuff. Orville Nation, you're starting that path already. Right on, right on. Thank you, sir. Thank you. PvP Curtis, AC/DC, Shot Down in Flames could be your new theme song. There are so many songs I want for my theme, but I don't have the clout. Like, I got to tell you, what I really would like for my theme song is either Cult of Personality. I think that would be awesome. Like Joseph Stalin and Kennedy, I'm the cult of personality. I would love that song. Or Tina Turner's We Don't Need Another Hero. Orville Nation. I think you had a better idea than I did. A poll about pole dancing. I'll try to remember. I need to write. No, forget it. And Connie Cleary, faithful bird woman of YouTube. Welcome, welcome. Sorry, that was ARG. Hey, ARG is more than welcome here. All too often I have ARG's mentality. We got people saying hi. I love this community. Orville Nation. There are other methods than Charlie's to get to people as well. Yeah, that's in fact, that's really where I want to start off, is why his method was effective, but why it's not for everybody. PvP sent you a vid on the CBC with Pierre, the conservative leader, ambush journalism. Right on. Gorillas, he wasn't silenced. He's a martyr for good, and millions are stepping up and amplifying his voice. Hashtag I am Charlie Kirk. Love that. I noticed that one of the people, I won't name any names, but one of the people in the community who strongly dislike Charlie Kirk is actually changing their view of him, because now that he's passed, they're going back and listening to things, and they're like, hey, I was saying that, and he said that too, and I didn't know that. And so that's exciting. That's gratifying. I'm finding the poll disturbing. I'm sorry. I try to get people to think, and I have a kind of a dark frame of mind sometimes. Checking out the poll right now, and of course it's early in the stream. There's only 6 votes, but 67% of you say it was why he was silenced, and the second place is tied with 17%. Of course, the Socratic method is best. and 17% are saying no, questions are stupid. So no questions are stupid actually did get a vote. I'm impressed, or maybe I'm depressed. Maybe I should go in and, it doesn't matter. Orville Nation, RFK was a huge champion of the environment for the left until very recently. Now they're criticizing him is hypocrisy. And I agree with that statement 99.99999%. He was a huge champion of the left. They were the ones that they had to silence him. My personal opinion, the apparatchiks had already decided who their nominee was. They no longer want democratic debate. They just want their nominee ramrodded in like it's always been, but only now they have to make it more obvious. And Biden was the man until they knew he couldn't do it, until they knew he could no longer fake not having dementia. So we're going to prop up Kamala instead. In a real actual debate world, I think Kennedy at least would have had a great shot to be the Democratic nominee, and he might have had a great shot of being president. And for those of you who do hate Trump, I'm going to be a little bit harsh here. It is your own damn fault that he's president, because if the Dems had used the democratic process that they're supposedly espouse, we could have easily gotten a nominee who would have had a chance. But I'm sorry, Biden, once it was revealed he had dementia, he had no chance. And Kamala, she never had a shot. She never had a chance. Never. And so those who would come to me and say that they were excited about her, one, I saw through that. I could see in your eyes that you really weren't, that once again you were just spouting propaganda. I am sorry for you, but again, your side, and I hate to be mean, but it's your side that did this. And so now we have to make up our minds. Do we double down in hatred and spite? Or do we open our hearts and realize maybe we were wrong about some things and start a dialogue? Live in Color, it's a great song. Gorilla's Random Thoughts, I don't know how I feel about hundreds are finding the accounts and workplaces of the people saying vile things and getting them fired. I don't agree. One's using it for clicks, saying who they are. Yeah, no, I get that. On one hand, I despise people saying these horrible things, but on the other hand, I'm a proponent of free speech. Are the things they're saying despicable? Yeah. But they do have the freedom to say it. Now, having said that, with free speech comes responsibility and accountability for your speech. Like the lady from DC Comics, I'm actually for her having been fired, but spreading it around, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about that. PvP, I find it interesting. Those that didn't like him never heard him. Often that's the case. Hello, Resolute Germ. Trying to get through the chat. I love that we have so much chat, though. The left went and trashed Equality Kennedy. Tell me what universe we are living in. No, I agree. How in the world does the Democrat left lose their mind so much that they take I could understand if I don't know. I just don't understand this particular case at all. Why they trashed him when they I'm going to be a little bit mean here. They took so they were willing to forgive Ted Kennedy so much, but we're not going to forgive RFK for anything. And on top of that, we're going to make up pointless crap that he never did. It it saddens me. I would, until recently I would have said it disgusted me, but I think I'm beyond disgusted now. I'm bitterly sad about where the left has gone. I'm going to try and make Chislicks in the air fryer. Hope it comes out well. All right, gorillas. I am getting to the topic, I promise. Canada does not have a history of political assassination. I'm concerned that may change. Gorillas, everyone's saying hi. John, I'm worried, where are all these people going to, and will they organize? A PvP conservative leader has stated he gets multiple death threats. He said he fears for his family. Notice he did not say he feared for his safety. And don't get me wrong, I realize I'm going to use the example of Fauci. I'm even going to use the example without saying the words and cuss words that usually spout out of my mouth after I mention him. He says he gets multiple death threats. So I'm just going to leave it at that and let you guys do your own thinking. That was Pierre Curtis, right? Right. Got it. RFK knows too much about everything that's coming, and deep staters control the Democratic Party. Yeah, and until Trump won the election, I would say they controlled the Republican Party too. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. Pointless crap would be a great YouTube channel name. Maybe I should change the channel to Pointless Crap. Wrestle Germ, that's because Ted just ended a woman. RFK Jr. tried talking to Trump. Oh, you're right. Thank you. Thank you, Resolute Germ, for putting it into the appropriate and proper perspective. Ending a woman's life is in no way comparable to the unjustifiable treason, crime, and sin of talking to Donald Trump. Orville says, yeah, you were right. They had a really good hold on the Republican Party, too. I mean, I think they did. I really think they did. And I think that I personally got too complacent and too, we've got them on the run. Things are turning around. We can relax now a little bit. I think I was wrong to think that. Pierre is the most articulate, intelligent politician Canada has had in decades. We need him as prime minister. Okay, caught up in the chat, so I'm going to begin, and I'm going to begin by making it personal. One of the reasons why this is impacting me so much is I look at Charlie Kirk, and maybe I'm being arrogant and prideful, but I look at Charlie Kirk and I think, that could have been me. There's an alternate universe where I didn't lose my scholarship and I studied for a year or two, because this is what actually did happen. I mean, I got sick, and that was the main reason that I fell apart. But the secondary reason that I almost never talk about was, even back then, while it was nowhere near as bad as it is now, I felt like there was a lot of propagandizing going on, even in reddest of the red Oklahoma, in the universities. And I was overly sensitive to it. I was not tough spirited enough. And then, you combine it with a sickness, and I just friggin' fell apart. But there's an alternate universe where I either didn't get sick or was strong enough to overcome it. And it was me. Because I had this thought. Years and years ago. It was me out there debating these students and trying to preach the truth. And I imagine that there, from that alternate universe, there's several others. There's probably alternate universes where, people were convinced of the peaceful way and we avoided all the stuff. And then there's another alternate universe where it's me shot in the neck. And I really, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like this is an exercise that all of us should do. But I think we need to be very careful how we do it. What if that was you? What if that was PvP? And like I say, an alternate universe where you're out there doing this. What if it was Orville Nation? Yeah, I could have been. It very is a very realistic thing that if I hadn't have fallen apart, I could have been. I probably couldn't have been president, but I could have been a lot more than I've been. And but this, I mean, even though I made it personal, I'm really not meaning to make this about me. I'm trying to make it about us. What if there's an alternate universe where Orville Nation is out there preaching his message? Maybe it's not, and it probably isn't exactly the same as Charlie Kirk's, but he's preaching the message of peace and positivity and love and enlightenment and development, and some MF plugs them. And welcome to DJ Ronnie G. I'm going to ruin the mood, but I'm going to share the comment. PJ should get a South Park cameo. Ooh, okay. Taking my last cup of coffee. DJ Ronnie G. I've got a bunch of wonderful creators in here. I should have probably been promoting you all as you've been talking, but I was trying to hurry to the subject. But please, yes, go and check out DJ Ronnie G's channel. Peace and positivity, you mean like in this universe as he does? Well, yes. I mean, but like it's like this weird alternate universe amalgamation. You got you got PJ and you got a Tommy Kirk-esque version, and he's out there and people are upset with him on a certain side. Bam, he's gone. It would need to be a damn alternate universe if I could be anywhere near Charles' level. Granted that you may have to suspend your disbelief a lot, but this is a part of empathy. I think is putting yourself in the other person's shoes. If you really want to be radical, put yourself into the shoes of the gunman. But I don't know that I don't have the heart to go that far right now. A message was attempted to be ended, a life was ended, and right or wrong is probably boring, but I want to read just a little bit from Ron Paul's Liberty Defined. He has a segment on assassination. I won't read the whole thing because even I wouldn't have the patience to sit through all of it, but tyranny. Let's back up a little bit. Who would have ever believed that we could fall so far? The basic principle of the writ of habeas corpus has been around for 800 years. And so has the right not to be in indefinite detention without charges. The justification for such abuse of the rule of law is all based on concocted fear by false claims. I'm going to skip down a little bit. It is further argued that only a few Americans are on a target list for, I'm going to say the word, YouTube. Let's all be grown-ups. I think we can hear the word and not fall apart like I did in my 20s. only a few Americans are on the target list for assassination. But possibly so, but so what? Tyranny always begins with oppression of unpopular minorities. If we wait for tyranny to target the mainstream and the majority, it will be too late. These targeted individuals are suspects, not convicted criminals, nor for the most part are they even charged with a crime. Now, of course, I'm not suggesting that this was deep state, but I would suggest it was, if not deep state, it was some disturbed person who was listening to the lies and the propaganda that is promulgated by the deep state. So whether they actually pulled the trigger or not, it was, I would suggest, their actions that caused the trigger to be pulled. That's my analysis, not him. I'm going to skip ahead to one last paragraph on the next page. According to Dennis Blair, the justification for deciding who is to be assassinated is to declare an individual a threat. No charges of a crime or plan to commit a crime are needed. Being a threat is a purely subjective term and is totally ambiguous. Casual acquaintance or associations based on false information can easily lead to deadly mistakes. His two major sources on this were Richard Belfield's The Assassination Business, A History of State-Sponsored Murder, and Andrew Napolitano's The Constitution in Exile, How the Federal Government has Seized Power by Rewriting the Supreme Law of the Land. PvP in the comments is saying Charlie was a huge intellect. His knowledge of various topics was impressive. And this is what did stop me from there's actually three things that stopped me from doing what Charlie Kirk did. One, I got sick. Two, I'm a freaking coward. I did not want to deal with crowds of angry people who thought I was a big dodo head. And the last thing is, until I got this channel, my entire life has been just trying to tell people, hey, that may not be the best thing. That could be stupid, and that they do it, and then bad things happen, and then they blame it on me. It's been my entire life, from my father to my college years to my marriage. Pretty nearly all of it has just been. So I finally learned to silence myself. Toward the end of my marriage, I was like, nobody, not only is nobody listening, it's evidently making things worse. And that's why it has taken me till I'm 54 to be able to try to share the things that I believe, because I have finally found a nurturing and kind and benevolent community. Maybe, who knows? I don't know what God's plan is, but for whatever reason, He did not want me to have that until now, or maybe He wanted me to, and I just screwed it up somehow. I don't know. PvP, I heard he was connected to Antifa, but have not seen enough to confirm it. I did hear the bullet casings had Antifa slogans on them. Yeah, I really don't know what to think, and maybe I shouldn't be suggesting the things that I'm suggesting, or that I seem to be suggesting. But my real thought is just a freaking crazy person. No matter what their race or creed or whatever, they're just freaking crazy. I know that most of the liberal response to me so far has been that the guy who tried to assassinate Trump was a registered Republican, and they don't understand. I'm not saying that that isn't true, but it's freaking propaganda. He may have been a registered Republican, but I will guarantee you his whole reason for being a registered Republican was to subvert. That was his purpose in it. His donation, small though it was, but when you're broke, it's going to be small, was to the Democrat Party. And the Bible says, where your treasure is, your heart is also. He may have registered Republican, but he didn't give them a cent. So, and well, yes, well, that was debunked because it turned out there was another man by his name that donated. And it's true, there was another man by his name that donated, but so did he. Look it up on Snopes. That's the left's big thing. That's why I use their sources. I want to use sources that they'll listen to because they won't listen to me. Look it up on Snopes. He made that $15 donation. Yes, it's not big, but he's a kid. He doesn't have a lot of money. But evidently he could get a hold of his dad's guns because his dad did have a lot of money. 22-year-old son of a police officer. Um, okay. All right. Let's dive a little more into the topic. Let's dive into the topic proper. What I did was probably not the greatest thing ever, but I just looked up Charlie Kirk on the Constitution, and we'll just see what he had to say, what he believed. And again, we can compare and contrast. We probably won't agree with everything that he thought or said. That's, we're human, we're flawed. So we will all have times when we disagree. This was mentioned in Federalist 10 that we are flawed and we'll always have disagreements because of that. All right. Charlie Kirk here on the Constitution. Who rules? The bureaucrats or the Constitution? This was produced on February the 6th, so moderately recent. Don't know if I'm going to be able to get this to scroll down or not. And I probably won't be able to get much of this shared because it looks like you have to watch it and go through a paywall or listen to it. And I know we can't listen to it because YouTube will slam us, but hey, at least he started it. A century ago, President Woodrow Wilson imposed a radically new vision of American government: rule by the experts instead of rule by the people. Charlie, in this episode, explained how President Trump's sweeping executive orders and aggressive attacks on DC agencies aren't just about keeping his promises, they're a restoration of the Constitution's vision of the presidency. Do you guys agree with that? That all these things that Trump is doing that the left doesn't like, and frankly, some of them are things I don't like. But is that his purpose? Is he trying to restore the Constitution? Or is the left correct that he's just walking all over constitutional things because he's a big dodo head? I would love to know what you think. I never heard Charlie say anything that didn't make sense. Well, that little paragraph there, I was hoping there was more to it. But yeah, I guess that's all there is. I may have to just defy YouTube a little bit here if I can get my darn mouse to work. Moira, did you spread a virus to me? Her mouse is always messing up with her. I think I just need to clean it. All right. Charlie Kirk. Dang nabbit. Share the screen. All right. Charlie Kirk, school student on the Constitution. I'll play it about by 8-second segments. This, y'all already know this, but this was his method. YouTube wants me to give some commentary, so I'll give some commentary because this is fair use. YouTube, I'm not just stealing his content. I am commenting on it. I am critiquing it, etc., etc. We're being analysts here. Oh, I guess it helps if I
in your own propaganda. And I was just going to ask if you see the irony in your own propaganda in the Constitution on your brainwash tour, having the explanations here because you don't believe the reader is smart enough.
Okay. Let's start off with this guy, let's be somewhat respectful. I don't want to end up doing what the kid's doing. Obviously they edited this, so there may be incredible erudition coming out of his mouth in the parts that were edited. But the parts that are shown anyway, he just heaps a bunch of ad hominem attacks on Charlie Kirk. That's all he's doing. You know, he just comes out saying, oh, you're brainwashing people, which I'm not saying one is not capable of brainwashing people during a speech, but I don't think that brainwashing can equal the 24/7 barragement of statist controlled, globalist controlled news that pours into our ears if we're not more proactive on choosing what we listen to. I am very interested now how does Charlie Kirk respond to that? Another reason why I didn't end up doing this, I would have probably said, oh, I'm not the dodo head. You're the dodo head. PvP rule by experts is a bad idea. Experts today are often loonies. Well, I think the thing is, experts, H.G. Wells had this idea, and he had me sold on this idea when I was younger. It makes a certain kind of sense. Politicians are corrupt. If we get the experts, if we get the scientists in there, we can rule scientifically, and then so many problems will be solved. But that doesn't seem to be how it's worked out. My suggestion is because the creators of the Constitution understood that even the so-called experts are still flawed and frail human beings, and if you give them power, all too often, I joke about having a government by blogger, but it's like what was his name? Brewster's Millions. Like Brewster said in Brewster's Millions, don't vote for me, I'll screw it up. And that's a promise. He was probably right. If he had won that election, even though he was the best man in the movie, sort of, kind of, he would have screwed it up. PvP, that said, a lot of citizens are idiots now, too. Yes. And they're idiots by design. They're idiots because they've been taught little in their schools except for a bunch of propaganda. And then they go into a world where social media and CNN and MSNBC and Fox are just bombarding them 24/7 with a bunch of crap. Generally, the world is drowning in ignorance and stupidity. It was confirmed. How many sources do you want? Yeah. PvP universities used to be about higher learning. Now indoctrination centers. Yes. One of the things I love, if you ever read C.S. Lewis's biography, and I'm having a senior moment, I can't remember what it was called, but he has a beautiful autobiography. He was taught the main purpose of his education was to be taught how to think. That was the main thing. You know, yeah, you eventually got into your specialization, and he learned about English literature and the history of languages and all, you know, philology, all this stuff. But the foundational thing, how to think, how to criticize, how to, and when I say criticize, I don't mean negatively. You know, you don't necessarily have to criticize all the time by tearing things apart. You can also criticize by, I love this movie, and these are the reasons why. Yes, PvP, critical thinking. We've lost that. I was lucky. Before I got my sickness, I took a class. It was classical rhetoric in the classical tradition. Best class I ever took, because it it was the class that taught me the most about critical thinking. And this is, I guess, why I'm so baffled by why people are fooled by things that seem so obvious to me. And yeah, I know both sides do it. I'm not claiming that. But the trouble is, we seem to be in a society that can see it when the other side does it, but we can't see it when our side does it. And yes, PvP, Charlie was a master in critical thinking. So let's see what he says to this person. How does he handle what Curtis probably would have fumbled?
To understand the language is kind of propaganda.
Well, no. So do you know who that audience is for?
For people who can't read it.
Yeah, that's a constitution for third graders.
Yeah. Why are
Okay. So this guy has something that Charlie Kirk has evidently written, or somebody on his staff has written. It's a dumbed down constitution, similar to the book I have right by my side right now, Glenn Beck's The Original Argument. That's why I'm not using that book as a source for all or many of my episodes, because he deliberately dumbs it down so people can understand it. It was written at a level of erudition that most people can't seem to grasp anymore. And this saddens me, because I've lost, I don't know how many IQ points from my sickness. I'm dumbed down to the level that I'm not really any more intelligent than anyone else anymore. But I can still understand the Constitution. I can still understand the Federalist Papers. So I feel like the average person, they may have to put some effort into it. They may have to look some stuff up, but they can understand it too. And they need to understand it, because they're voting. They're deciding things for the future. PvP is being too kind to me. It's obvious to intelligent folks. And you may be right. Maybe these kids are not intelligent. My question then is, I'm going to sound like an elitist bastard, but if they're not intelligent, why are they at a university? I'm just going to leave that question out there. If they're not intelligent, why and how are they at a university? I'm not going to digress though. Let's see what goes on with the rest of this.
Are you handing it out to college students?
Let's test your knowledge. Don't
Yeah.
open it up.
All right.
What is the 10th Amendment? Okay, let's get easier. What's the Fourth Amendment?
Isn't that the No Quartering Act?
No, that's the Third Amendment. What is Article 3 of the U.S. Constitution?
I just want to ask.
No, but
And see, right here, I remember the 10th Amendment, but I'd forgotten, which one's the Fourth Amendment. I'm giving a friggin' talk on this, but Charlie Kirk just has it right there at his command. Like I should, like we all probably should. We should have this thing, if not memorized, at least, that's that amendment. Or, maybe we don't necessarily have to know it so well that we know exactly what article things are in, but with the Bill of Rights, we should know. And I'm just going to reveal my ignorance because I'm going to just share the ones that I know, obviously. And the rest of them are like, well, yeah, it's somewhere in there. You got your First Amendment. It's the freedom of religion, press, assembly, basically the freedom to think what you want to think. Second Amendment, the right to bear arms so that you can defend yourself from a tyranny and from any other threat. Fifth Amendment, you have the right not to testify against yourself. You cannot be forced to testify against yourself. 10th Amendment, that's basically says that if the powers are not granted specifically to the federal government, then they belong to either the states or the citizens. And sadly, the rest of them, I kind of get all mixed up. I know it's in there, but I don't know which one it is. I'm probably closer to this dumb kid than I am to Charlie Kirk. And that's sad. PvP, rich parents. The bitter Curtis really wants to talk more about his college experience, but it's not about me, so I'll shut up. PvP, any idiot can get in the first semester and flunk out. Yeah. The universities just want money. Yep. Are there any entry level standards anymore? I honestly don't know. I really don't. All right. Let's see what else he's.
I'm just saying, you came here guns a-blazing.
Yeah.
You do not know more than a third grader about the U.S. Constitution.
Yep. I mean, and he doesn't, maybe that guy felt it was insulting. Maybe you feel that was insulting, but I don't. If he came at me and I answered like that, and I might not answer much better, I wouldn't answer much better than that guy did. Well, I'm kind of a dumbass for, like he says, going in there guns a-blazing. Oh, you're trying to promote propaganda and this and that. But maybe he's not. Maybe he's just trying to teach you what's in there. Because you need to know what's in there. Gorillas, I'm a little bit behind the stream. Maybe the time for grace is over. And I wonder about that myself. I really do. But I don't want to dive into negativity just yet. I'm not meaning that you're negative. I'm just saying that I'm going to try to stay a little bit positive for a little bit longer. All right, share the screen. You know what? No, don't share the screen. Fine, be that way, computer. Let's see. Charlie Kirk torches constitutional skeptics. Stop. There. Sorry. It's lovely. When you don't want it to play, it plays. When you want it to play, it doesn't. Share the screen and keep out the devil. Here we go. Here he is at Big Government Sucks. Turning Point USA. I tend to agree. My idea is, maybe we can't turn back the clock. I know we can't turn it back all the way to 1787, but In my humble opinion, the smaller the government, the better off for everybody. So let's start this off. And
I'm a conservatarian, which I believe essentially I believe that people should be able to do whatever they want to do as long as it doesn't harm someone else. That's essentially my worldview. As
yep,
I said, I believe America.
and that tends to be mine within those parameters. If you're not hurting anyone else, do whatever the heck you want. Now, once you get into hurting other people, yeah, you probably are now in the parameter of the government has a say in what you're doing. Oh, PvP. I don't want to hear about your behind, gorilla. PvP, I'll show it to you so you can kiss it. And big government is bad. And maybe that's a sheep's bleat to you. Maybe, you know, you haven't had my experiences, et cetera, et cetera. But that is one of my principles, is that, you know, within reason, you have the right to do anything you want to do that doesn't hurt anyone else. So, like when someone wants to dress up like a woman or do this or that or sleep with somebody, as long as the other person's consenting and they're not throwing it up in my face, I don't care. It's not my business. If they're happy, knock yourself out. But if you're, say, grooming kids, now we're on a different plane. Or if you are throwing the stuff, like you're running around naked in the streets or doing each other in the streets, now that's a different, well, it's not hurting anybody else. Look, fine. I'm mature enough, I can see that and live with it. But what if my kid was still 5 or 6 years old? You know, frickin' Snoop Dogg, yay, yay, yay. He talked about it recently. You know, he felt like, I think justifiably so, that he shouldn't have to just tell his kid, his grandkid in this case, about certain things. That should come with time. There's a way of handling it. It shouldn't just be randomly, you know, the media telling you when you tell your kids about the birds and the bees. All right, back to Charlie Kirk.
America is the greatest country in the history of the world. I believe the Constitution is the greatest political document ever written. The Constitution was the first and still.
As you can see, the students there all hate him, loathe him, and despise him. He was a threat, and it is a good thing that he was removed because he was being very divisive there, and all of those students just couldn't stand him. Sorry, maybe that was a joke too far, but I tend to agree with this too. I know I'm an American, so I'm biased, but I truly do think that the United States is the greatest country that's ever been. We're not the biggest. We're closer to being the biggest than the smallest, but we're not the biggest, but we're the wealthiest. We have done, I think World War II demonstrates that militarily we're pretty much not to be screwed with. I think we've done the most for the rights of humankind. Now, we do have massive flaws as well, like any mortal thing has. But I think it's unfair to say, well, you've got this one flaw over here, so you're bad. Oh, well, that's great, but you have this one flaw over here. Can I say that you're bad? You know, that whole he who is without sin, throw the first stone. And yes, I also agree. I know I have some very smart and really good friends who really, It's not that they don't like the Constitution. They just feel like we should have come up with something better. I don't know what that would have been. That's my only thing. It's the best thing that I think we've had. We have improved it as it's gone along. I realize that as the nation has grown, it's become progressively harder and harder and harder to amend it. That's the price of success. Sadly, the only answer to that is we either remake the Constitution or we shrink the country. In other words, make it weaker in order to better and more easily make amendments. Oh, more people coming in and more chat. So let's look at that. Gorillas, did you want me to send you the videos? If you want to, go ahead. I don't know if I'll share them. Let me know if you want me to share them, what you want, but Matt Cheatwood, and I know you are, and I love you for it, is an absolutist on this issue. Amen. Amen. Constitution, small government, and yeah, I mean, I can deal with someone maybe not believing in America being the greatest nation, but I can't compromise on the other two. I just can't. And maybe that makes me a bad person. Let me do a little bit of a segue here. I'd actually meant to bring this up sooner, and then I got distracted by shiny objects. I don't want to share the tweet or the post, and I also don't want to share who shared it. But one of my liberal friends sent a post on Facebook the other day, and I got so upset about it, and I almost posted about it, and then I realized there was no point. All I would do would be to upset them for no good purpose. So I'm not going to share who it is because I don't. That my point isn't to point fingers at them or anything. It's to kind of demonstrate why this gets so difficult on both sides. On our side, I believe rightfully so, we're not willing to compromise on liberty. We're not willing to compromise on the Constitution. Nearly everything else is up for grabs. If you want this, you want that, you know what? We're good with that, but leave us freedom. Leave us the Constitution. And we feel like we're pinned against the wall right now because we feel like what they're basically saying is screw you and your freedom and your Constitution. Our freedoms matter. Our lives matter. The way we want to do government matters, but you and your freedoms and your constitutions can go get stuffed. That may not be what their message is, really, but that's how we perceive it. Now, I'm only going to read one portion, and then I'm going to describe the post, because the post isn't the point. The point is, are we at a point where there's no longer any point in trying to work together? I don't have the answer. I'm just asking the question. This post was from August 2. I'm sure most of you probably saw it. It begins with, I will not be drawn into debate over this post. And because of the context of other things that they posted, it immediately sparked a reaction in me. I was not even thinking of Charlie Kirk at the time, but now I wish I had. He was willing to be. In fact, that was his purpose, was to be drawn into debate. Let's talk this out. You know, you want to say that I'm spreading propaganda. I say I'm just trying to teach you about the Constitution. You humbly, I'm sorry, but you have no leg to stand on if you don't have at least a minimal understanding of the Constitution. The rest of the post, again, I won't read because it's not, the post doesn't matter. The angst toward this person doesn't matter. But the whole thing is just this big list of, I will not work together, fill in the blank. And, you know, if I read it deeper, I might even find something I agreed with. But again, to me, it was just, how do we work together then? If you won't work together because, and you think that all this stuff that you list is true when a lot of it's not. And two, if you're not willing to work together, then what do you want me to do? Because I'm not just going to lay over and die. I'm not just going to just take a bunch of crap. So what do you want me to do? And I chose to basically just unfriend that person and saved it to my collection, because maybe someday, if y'all want me to, I will go point by point over that thing. But I think the moment's probably past. PvP, Pierre wants to streamline government here to get projects done without all the levels of bureaucracy. And I do think that bureaucracy is a key point. I know you have to have some level of bureaucracy. I know that. And I always got kind of some condescending nods from my liberal friends when I would say, I do believe that we need to minimize that bureaucracy. But evidently, their vision of what's a minimal level and mine are radically different. Evidently, they're okay, more than okay, with 400 plus different bureaus. With having so many bureaus, we don't even know how many bureaus there are. Evidently, that's okay. I say no, hell to the no. I don't know where the level should be, but to me, anything over 100, even for a government this size, is too much. The states can do some things. Some of our cities can do some things. We as citizens are smart enough to run our own lives. Unless we're just a job factory and that's all the government is, and that's a debate for another day, we don't need 400 different bureaus. I myself, most of my conservative friends howl at me when I say this. I would be happy with 100 because I'm willing to compromise, but I'm not. Anything over 100 is too much. It's too much. It's insanely too much. Men wanting access to women's bathrooms is creepy. I will 100% agree with that. Matthew Cheatwood is saying PvP, I agree, femininity and masculinity is a spectrum. And I agree with that. But male and female is not. Yeah, I know my left-leaning friends disagree with me. And again, this isn't to say, I don't want to say that you can't be trans. I'm not saying that. I'm not even saying you can't be, what's the phrase? Basically the man that wears women's clothes. You can do that. I don't care. If, you know, there's a show on where they parade it and do it. I don't really like the show, but you know what? If you enjoy it, knock yourself out. You have the right to enjoy it. You have the right to like it. They have a right to put on that show. But the truth is, if you got a pair of balls, you're a male. And if you've got a vagina, you're a female. Now, if you got both, then yeah, nature kind of played a trick on you, and that's a different subject. But if you got one or the other, you're that one or the other. You know, I'm sorry. Uh, yes, Matt. Great point. America is so awesome. Even those who hate it refuse to leave it. Yeah, right on. Gorillas, how do you think this will change America? Are you talking about the unaliving of Charlie Kirk? I think there's a lot of dark thoughts in my head, and I don't know how many of them I should share. I think one of the thoughts that I'm going to share is they've been priming us and they have been trying to goad us. This used to be one of the prime subjects of my channel. And then I kind of let it slip because anyway, I'm a frail human myself. Trying to give myself a little bit of grace. I felt like Trump won the election. I felt like there was a change. There were more people being more reasonable. You had some idiots that were doubling down, but frankly, a lot of them, to me, at the risk of sounding like an ad hominem attacker, a lot of the people who are just doubling down are actually pathetic to me and sad. And I just have no respect for them. And I think that I want to believe that their time in history is fading, but maybe I'm wrong. We we have a group of people who are willing to start firing shots. And again, I'm not going to go so far as to say that they are in the deep state because we just don't have enough information, and I doubt we ever will. We never did learn. We've learned more about those dumbass people on the Coldplay meme than we've ever learned about the assassin that tried to get Trump first time. And I don't think we ever will, because I think all that information was burned with his body. And all we really know, and all we'll ever really know, is the guy was disturbed. And maybe that is all we need to know. But I resent that some government bureaucrat seems to have made that decision for us. If we're going to avoid a civil war, I hate to say this because I don't know that I have the strength to live up to what I'm saying, but I'm going to say it. So forgive me if I do end up failing. We've got to become so much stronger and so much better people than we thought or believed that we could. I think that's the only thing that avoids it. We didn't do that in the first Civil War. And we descended into it. And now this is what made me think that we were bound for one was we have politicians, whatever you may think of the politicians in the 1860s, my studies of Lincoln and his cabinet, I don't think that even the best of the politicians that we have are even deserving to empty those guys' chamber pots. They had flaws, they had huge flaws, but nothing compared to what we have now. These were men that mostly were willing to sublimate their pride to the good of their country. I don't know that we have that anymore. These were people that were willing, they started out, most of these people started out the war scorning Abraham Lincoln. Like read Team of Rivals and it'll open your eyes. These guys had contempt for him. And by the end of the war, their letters were describing him as the best man they'd ever dealt with. I mean, their praise for him was amazing. And then when he was assassinated, most of them ended up in tears. I don't know where we find people like that anymore. And I don't know how the heck we convince them to run, because we would have to convince them to now. Back then they wanted to. Now they're scared. They don't want to be shot. They don't want to have their YouTube channels taken down. But I think that's what it's going to take. We have to become, in any of the good ways. I know Charlie, he's a human being. He had his flaws. And we will still have flaws no matter what we do. But we have to become more like him. And I don't want to make people uncomfortable, because I'm not trying to force anyone into a religion, but we really do have to become more like Christ or more like Buddha, but not necessarily completely. Because I don't think, I could be wrong, but I don't think we're meant to sacrifice ourselves, at least in the same way. Because me dying for your sins ain't going to do no good. I know, again, I don't mean to get into theology, but me dying for your sins is just going to be a laughable thing. Or you dying for mine. But if the shit hits the fan, I hope I'm willing to take a bullet for some of you guys. I hope one or two of you might at least consider it for, if not for me, then for each other, for the people in your households. It may come down to that. I hope not. PvP, the extreme left is beyond hope. Matt Cheatwood, I absolutely respect that sentiment, or that's not even sentiment. It's a standard. It's a principle. I refuse to be enslaved by leftists. Amen. I will respond to them. Matt Cheatwood, those who refuse to engage in debate know that their arguments are weak. Yeah, this is the guy from Young Turk said it again. In fact, no, I'll try to stay focused. He did it again, as he did with Trump. He came on and said how horrified he was that this, when you don't have the arguments to convince people, this is what you descend to, because you have to be right and your side has to be right. And on one hand, I don't ever want to be that guy, but at the other hand, it's like you say, Matt, I don't want to be enslaved to people who are like that, who cannot be wrong. PvP, I left a comment how the CBC coverage was awful. They labeled Charlie as extreme right the day he was killed. Yeah, the MSNBC article that I read the other day. For MSNBC, it was actually a stellar work of journalism, but at the very end, they had to show their colors. This is all Trump's fault. I'm paraphrasing, but you know, if they'd have left out that last article, it would have been a tolerable, that last paragraph, I mean, it would have been a tolerable article. But Matt Cheatwood, they want you to comply, to surrender, and to obey. Okay, that, I'm going to let myself get just a little distracted. About my first or second year of marriage, I was still working at Walmart. And I actually loved working at Walmart the first few years of my career. It was challenging, it was tough. There were still things that went on that I was like, yeah, this ain't cool. But I could overlook them. I knew that things were going to hell when one day our store manager came back from the big highfalutin meeting, the I can't remember, the stockholders meeting, whatever they call that. They have thousands of people because there's millions of stockholders. Thousands of people come from all over the world, and Walmart talks about how great they are and how much money they make and how good they are to the workers. It used to be that even some of it was true. In this meeting, they announced that the number one and most important thing was compliance. And I knew we were going to go to hell because, first off, that wasn't Sam Walton's principle. Sam Walton's he had 3 central principles. I've forgotten all the others, but the one I remember because it got burned in my brain from this incident was respect for the individual. And I am sorry, but compliance, forced compliance, is not respect for the individual. It's just not. And that from that time till, I don't know about now, I barely ever walk in one now, but until recently, I've kind of feel like they're a big part of the globalist horror push that's going on, and I try my best to have nothing to do with them. But you are 100% correct, Matt Cheatwood. The globalists, they want you to comply, they want you to surrender, they want you broken, but not quite so broken that you can't work. Not quite. And they want you to obey. The one part of the Bible that makes me cringe, the whole thing about obedience, I think I get there's a good side to it, but I think there's a bad side, and I think this is the bad side. They don't want to earn your respect. They don't want to actually lead you. They just want you to obey, whether they deserve it or not. PvP posted he's not far right. He's not. And Booger, welcome, welcome, welcome. We're living George Carlin's adage of all my crap is stuff and all your stuff is crap. Yes, you got it. You got it. Matt Cheatwood, he was one of the most moderate conservatives out there. Yeah, there's a lot of Trumpism. Look, I'm sorry, my leftist friends. Trump is a moderate. I'm further left than he is. I can hear my liberal friends howling now. Oh, that means you're a Nazi. I said the word. I said the word. Oh, I said it again. I said it again. They lie about these people. They tell you that they are fascists, and I watched an article and it talked about the definition of a fascist, and they showed how that person's a fascist. Well, how much of that? First of all, maybe the definition's right, maybe it's not. I need to look at that article. But second of all, when you research and you find out that 2/3 to 3/4 to 9/10 of the thing in the article is made up, how am I supposed to respect the arguments of your side? It triggers me that you say that it's my side. It is your side. You picked it. I'm sorry. I sometimes, even now, I should be over it, but even now I sometimes cringe when I say that I'm on Trump's side, but it is what it is. When bullets start flying, you pick a side. Or at the very least, you try to stay out of the way of the bullets. PvP, I got over 100 likes, but a troll posted that Charlie was far right and his assassin was further right. Yeah, that's what we're going to hear. The only leftist information that was left on my talk about Charlie Kirk was someone who, ironically, they said aloha, and then they left little hearts around their information, and all it was stuff that a lot of it I'd already proven wrong in earlier streams. Now, of course, they couldn't necessarily know that. They're like, Trump did this, Trump did that, Trump did the other. And I was like, what does that got to do with whether it was good that are you saying that it was good that Charlie was assassinated? And if so, this is what you're backing it up with how bad Trump is? Charlie Kirk is not Trump. I know I might sound like I'm equivocating here, but it's two different. It's like trying to argue the point of the Constitution, but all I throw at you is quotes from Shakespeare. I'm kind of a dumbass at this point, or quotes from Family Guy, or you know what I mean. So this guy said Charlie's killer was far right, right? PvP. How you talk to someone so delusional to think that that the assassin was right wing? Well, I have friends who the last time I talked to them about it, and I don't talk to them about it anymore because I'm afraid I'll lose my shit. And I don't think it would just wouldn't be productive for me to lose my shit on them. But all they'll ever say when you talk about the assassination of Trump is that guy was a registered Republican, and as if that makes it okay. I mean, I realize that that's probably not what they're trying to say, but they are trying to shut me up. I mean, that's all they're trying to do. I've talked with my best friend. They have every right, according to their ideology, to be terribly upset. What comes around goes around. They have every right to shoot us if they disagree with what we say, but we have no right to have any feeling whatsoever. Any insult they throw at us, any lie, anything is not, it's not okay for us to feel anything. It's not okay for us to say anything. It is okay for them to say or do anything to shut us up. My friends don't know why they lost me. This is why. Because you were willing to say anything just to shut me up. And eventually you got it accomplished. And now you want me back in your life? It doesn't work that way. Either you shut up about Kamala and Biden and all them, or you have to give me the right to talk about my side. Otherwise, it's not a friendship. I hope everyone in the chat knows I'm not talking to anybody that's now in the chat. At least I think, unless they're later in the chat. Booger. We always look to someone we see as a higher level of government to give us stuff. And welcome, Booger, by the way. Welcome, Booger. Sorry, I guess I'm letting things get to my emotions. All those bureaus exist for the purpose of administering handouts. Indeed, which if 90% of it was going to starving people, wouldn't bother me. But that's not where it goes. One of my favorite quotes from Ron Paul: "All foreign aid is taking money from poor Americans and giving it to rich foreigners." Because I hate to tell you guys this, if you look at it, a huge percentage of the money that we use for foreign aid, it doesn't go to starving people. It doesn't go to starving Palestinians. It doesn't go to starving Nairobians. It goes to some rich asshole in the UN or in Nairobi or in whatever, some organization, and they get their cut, and they hand it to someone who gets their cut, and they hand it to someone who gets their cut. And eventually it ends up being some pallets that are usually left on a dock to rot because terrorists won't let other people have it. And I don't give a shit who gets mad at what I said there. PvP, I ignore those comments. I have no time to educate fools. Drag, yes, Connie, drag. I have friends that like those drag shows, and you know what? I'm not saying this to criticize them. They enjoy it, and great, because we shouldn't all be alike either. We have to be careful of that. We have to be careful of, my preferences dictate morality. No, they don't. No, they don't. Now, laws are things that we all have to come together. I'm sorry, my liberal friend, but that's what we have to do, or we have to divide and weaken. Matt Cheatwood, I'll absolutely say it. There is no such thing as trans sex, only transvestites. And I would say in 90% of cases, you are correct. The only caveat I give is for hermaphrodites. If you were born with both parts, well, God is doing something I don't understand. So then in that case, if you decide to choose one over the other, then okay, I get that. But Resolute Germ, you can do all that. Just understand you have a mental disorder. I do have a mental disorder, but that's neither here nor there. Booger, if you have both, then go F yourself. I've often wondered. I don't think about it too long because, insanity lies that way. But it's like, what would you do if you were born with both? And I've talked to exactly one person that was born with both, and they were actually cool people. And it- yeah, but here's the deal: that one person was not hateful and was not like saying that other people should die because they disagreed with them. They just happened to have been born with both parts. So, they just dealt like all the rest of us. Life hands us some things and we deal with it. Gorillas sent me some videos on Twitter. Let me see what those. Oh, yes, I see what you're talking about. Ooh, wow. Oh, ow. Yeah, this means war. Wow. Ooh, I'm getting chills from. I'll admit, I'm a little bit scared there. PvP, we had a transvestite ran the projector at my hometown cinema years ago. He never bothered anyone. We had no problem with his lifestyle. Yeah, there were a couple of people who came through my line at the checkout yesterday or the other day. I don't give a shit. It's not my business. If they're happy, all right. Um, Booger, we all have dark thoughts. We should strive not to not succumb to them. There are no promises. Yeah, I'm afraid to say it, but I think we all do sometimes. PvP, gay folks, keep it in the privacy of their homes. That's fine. When the go naked in pride parades and flash their junk in young kids' faces, it's disgusting. Yeah, I have nothing against pride parades, but where at least cover things up, you know? I'm just saying. Unless you're like a really hot woman. Oh no. I didn't think that. See, reference back to the dark thoughts. Growing up, I learned about distant revolutionary figures. Now I think the next ones will be in my lifetime. Perhaps when I'm too old to be of much help. I think I'm pretty close to already there. That's what worries me. I almost wish if this had been going to happen, it could have happened when I was young enough to do something. But maybe, I don't know. I'm trying to believe that God has a plan, and maybe, I don't know. I'm not saying you have to believe in God or God's plan. I'm trying to figure out what the hell. PvP, why parents take their young kids to pride events is beyond sense. Remember the motto, don't tread on me. Indeed. Matt Chewood, Andrew Jackson had a lot in common with Trump. He was about 40 years old. Or he was about 40 years before the first Civil War. Things move a lot faster now. Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of similarity between Jackson and Trump. And I noticed that the Democrats, he founded the Democrat Party. He founded that party. And now he's like an arch villain, and we topple his statues. And I have a really good friend that's his favorite president. And while he hasn't convinced me to make him my favorite, I have more respect for him now, having talked to this friend. PvP, nearly 500 churches have burned in Canada since 2016. I don't remember you sending me that video. You may have, but I don't remember it. But I do know that there've been. I talked about it about a year ago. That there's a drastic number of church burnings in Europe. The left are the Borg. You're correct, PvP, and assimilation. Resistance is futile. A good citizen does as he is told. Yes, and Matt Cheatwood, told by who? Another citizen in a costume with a gun? And Matt Cheatwood responds, I too have these things. See, and that's why they want to take those guns. Then we have to comply or die. Globalists want slaves. I may make this the statement of the, because even though it's short and very concise, it's the point. It's the point that we've been trying to say to our liberal friends who have said to us that you can't stop globalism. I heard this from a friend of mine. You can't stop globalism. That ship has sailed. But I hate to tell you this, my friend. Globalists want us to be slaves. So you're telling me, one, that the globalists are going to win. Two, that we are going to be slaves. And three, you evidently like that thought, or you wouldn't be throwing it in my face. So, what you're really saying, my liberal friend, not you, PvP, I'm talking about someone I had a discussion with years ago. What you're really telling me is You are looking forward to the time when you will own nothing and you will be happy with it. Okay, but I'm afraid I wouldn't be. Booger, at this point, I'm not sure it isn't AI telling us to comply. I wonder about that too. Matt Cheatwood also makes a great statement. Trump is a Democrat from the 90s. Booger, you mean the National Socialist Workers? Yes, I love the Babylon Bee thing where the lady goes back in time to unalive Mustache Man. And, oh, you believe in this? So do I do too. It's so beautiful. Tax and spend. You got it. Tax and spend to weaken us. It's not about economics. This is the other thing that frustrates me because I can throw out all the economic reasons and it doesn't seem to matter. They don't seem to care. So I'm going to be blunt. I'm going to put it in third grade terms. They tax you not because they need the money. They spend it all not because they care. They do all of this to weaken you, to make your life harder because their God is power. And the demonstration of power is making someone suffer. All of this is in 1984. The image that you need in your mind is of a boot in the face of humanity for all of time. All of this, 1984. And we can all see it from the other side. And this is something I also want to warn us of. Even though I've taken a side, we have to be careful that our side doesn't become their side, because that's what always happens in history. PvP Trump is about making deals that help American interests, right? Matt Cheatwood, fascism, seriously? Antifa literally is the modern day brown shirts. It's a good point. Oh, I was also told that I was a bad person because I hated Black Lives Matter. Um, Look, Black lives do matter. They do. And there are bad things that happen and they should stop. But I am not a bad person for hating brown shirts. And I'm not a bad person for resenting being called a brown shirt when it's the other side that's got the brown shirts. PvP, I don't always agree with Trump, but I respect his intelligence. I don't always agree with Trump. I've had times in the recent years when I disagreed with him more than I agreed with him. But he's not the one having people shot. Well, what about ICE? Well, please demonstrate to me. Anyway, Gutfield covered this. They'll find one incidence where somebody screws up, and that will just prove that he's bad. That it doesn't matter how many people they kill. That doesn't matter. Any incident where we make a mistake, we're bad. Booger, that which we could call a liberty by any other name, would want it as loud. Matt Cheatwood, people who mention the Trump shooter being registered Republican have no idea what the left tells people in solid red areas to do. Register Republican and vote for the worst candidate in the primary. Oh, I've got to bring this up. As good liberals, we were all supposed to despise Elon Musk when he bought Twitter. Now, I'd shifted quite a bit left at the time, but I was baffled by this. I could not bring myself to understand, why was it bad that he would buy it? I mean, it's already owned by stockholders. What does it matter if another stockholder comes in who's is himself, he was pretty liberal at the time. I could go back in 2017 when I was in my darkest place. I was about an inch away from thinking he was the Antichrist because we were, because he was so far left. He gave money to Obama. He gave money to, I can't remember if he gave to Hillary, but he basically gave lots of money to the Democrats. Why then would it be bad for him to take over Twitter? And now I do understand. Because now I can go on Twitter, and whether it's a right-wing thing or a left-wing thing, as long as it's somewhat factually based, I can say it on Twitter. And Twitter doesn't come down on me. The worst thing that Twitter's done to me at all has been this has been proven to be wrong. This has been proven to be a whatchamacallit. And then I could go research it and find, oh yeah, this was wrong, which is totally different from all the other places that would just nail you down no matter what. What's this message I'm receiving? Okay, I can look at that later. So there's been a couple of responses to Twitter, which has been decreed a right-wing radical thing now. And one of them was Threads, and I got on Threads, and for a while it was kind of fun because there were a lot of thirst traps on there, but there was a lot of Democrat propaganda. And there were a lot of teachers from Oklahoma who were posting hashtag Democrat, I understand the assignment. Hundreds of them. I never found out what that was about, but I have assumed that they were doing what you are talking about. They were registering Republican, or they were doing something to undermine the Republican Party. And look, I get it's politics, etc., etc. But yeah, to me, that's not playing by the rules, though. Ah, yes, PvP, we aren't human because we are rational. I am Spock. At Cheatwood, they know the Dems are going to lose, so they encourage their members to weaken the Republicans by infiltrating their primaries. Yeah, Russell Brand talked about this years ago. How that was had become a Democrat strategy to fund. They also deliberately funded the most radical Republicans in the hopes of them winning the primary, so then they could come in and look like the normal guy. It's okay. You can say that on the radio. Booger, is the government's job to feed the starving? Does it matter why they're starving? Those are both good questions. The government, I don't mean to sound mean, but I would say their job is to basically keep us safe from invasions and basically keep some modicum of peace. Feeding the starving, that's a good question. If that's the government's job, but I know classically it's not. I don't mean to be mean, but it's not. Now, obviously, I think a good government does do its best to do policies that will get people fed, but yeah, but it's not. Classically, it's not the purpose of the government to feed anyone. PvP is sharing a link. Let me see what that looks like. I have too many tabs open. Hey, while I'm at it, let's look at this poll. Was Charlie Kirk's Socratic style a good method of debating the issues? 62% of you say it was why he was silenced. 31% of you say, of course, the Socratic method is best. And 8% of you, I'm thinking you probably voted with tongue in cheek, but who knows? No, questions are stupid. All right. Let's see what your, no, I want to see PvP's thing. Oh, that didn't come out good. Somebody's going to clip that and make me sad. All right, YouTube watch. I worry for my family. Pierre Polyev talks political violence and climate. Gotcha. All right. Matt Chiwa, the only legitimate purpose of the government is to protect the few negative rights of the citizens. Yes. Basically, defend the borders and yes, to protect the few negative rights. PvP, the video shows CBC reporters ambush and Pierre remains calm and focused. Matt Cheatwood, intersex is a thing, but none of them have parts of both. Right on. Never is there recorded instance of a single individual with both testes and ovaries. Huh. Okay, I thought there were, but maybe I'm wrong. It's not like I'm a great big ace. I'm not Charlie Kirk. PvP Gorilla sent that to me on Facebook. And yes, Charlotte Nightstar. Oh, rest in peace, Charlie. Hashtag justice for Charlie Kirk. Yes. And here's a short film that will cheer folks up. We don't need cheered up. I'm just teasing. Yeah, check out that film. Let me see if I can get it to load up. It's why he was silenced. I expected it was. Well, let's face it, they had to take out Socrates. Let's never forget that. And that's might be one reason why not many people. Okay, that does look like it's fun. Okay, I will probably watch that after the stream. Ironic. Andrew Jackson founded the Democrat Party. He's almost just like Trump. It is. There are pathetic people running around. I'll put it that way. Booger. A couple of weeks ago, Governor Hochul. Sorry, I've been fidgeting with this thing and I dropped it. Hochul of New York said she was at war. She knew who the enemy was. Later, Senator Murphy from Connecticut said he was fighting in a war. And you know, the thing is, I guarantee you they would just say, well, it's just rhetoric. But I doubt if the shooter was thinking that way. Matt Cheatwood, they're absolutely wrong. We can stop globalism. It is already falling apart. Become ungovernable. I do think that there's something to that. It's not in my nature, but I think maybe it needs to become part of my nature. I don't know. Trump was also Democrat back in the day. He was based, Matt, right on. When you say you will own nothing, they mean you won't even own yourself. Exactly correct, Matt. A slave doesn't even own himself. Your master does. PvP Carney has said the prime minister 6 months has been prime minister 6 months and has done nothing. He did something. He hugged a naked gay man. So take that back. He did something. Matt, I've spent the last couple of years establishing my own food supply: chickens, goats, pigs, rabbits, meat, eggs, milk. Yeah, the great thing is, even if Civil War doesn't come out, you have escaped a lot of the problems of inflation because you've got the food right there. You still have to feed them, but that I would hope that that's cheap compared to the other. I hope. PvP. He won the election promising to fight Trump's tariffs. He backed up totally. Yeah. No prime minister elected ever went on a holiday 6 months without opening parliament. That's got to tell you something. Carney knows Pierre will rip him a dozen new ones when Parliament resumes. I bet Carney will be absent from the House and let his liberal underlings get shredded. Charlotte, the assignment to hurt more people in political debating. Well, that's just it, though. There's not a lot of, like here in Oklahoma anyway, there's some, but there's not a lot of political debate. This, I never found out what that message was, but I had the impression that it was something kind of clandestine because, but it was something that that was the whole thing. I understand the assignment, whatever the hell that means. PvP right wing thing, my next metal band. PvP, do we have food banks? We do. Why are questions stupid? Well, that's a stupid question, PvP. Matt beat me to it. What this has always been one of my troubles. I have always loved asking questions. To me, until I get beaten down, it's fun. My mind works that way. It's fun to ask, why does Cassie come up to me and want to be petted? What's up with that? In fact, I think I'll show you if I can get my camera to, because I haven't showed her yet today. There she is. You see the back of her head because she's wanting to get scritches. There's our good Cassie. But no, I've never. The thing is, authority hates to be questioned. And I get, in, say, the circumstances of war, you don't have a lot of time. Sometimes you often have, all you have time to do is just either to obey or not. And if your officers are well trained and the mission is righteous and smart, hopefully they're giving you the right orders. But that's a different context than a lot of life. When you're not in a war, why can't you ask questions? And maybe that's why they want it to, maybe they don't really want the violence, but they want that whole aura of, you can't ask questions because we're at war. It's not easy to be intelligent. No, sometimes it's not. Cassie, according to Google, it's not easy to be intelligent. Okay, let's get back to Charlie Kirk here. I'll at least try to get through this video 8 seconds at a time. Thank you, YouTube. Charlie Kirk defending the Constitution.
To this day is, so that's really interesting, written by slave owners. So it's, well, of course I admit it, but you also have to look at, truth is incontrovertible despite who writes it or the sins that they're engaging at the time.
I love that. Truth is incontrovertible in spite of the sins, in spite of the flaws of the people who say it. Is that true? I mean, I think it is, but then I'm one of these dummies that does think that there's an absolute truth. I think we have to be careful about saying that we represent it, because all too often we don't know it. But I'm not a postmodernist. I think that there is truth with a capital T. I'm not so sure that we know what it is. I think we have to be very careful about assuming we have it, but I think it is there it is there. So this is the question. What is the Constitution a truthful thing? In other words, is it a document that will cause us to get the benefits. In other words, a more united country, a stronger country? Will it give us the blessings of liberty or not? Matt Cheatwood, Oklahoma teachers use the viral phrase, I understand the assignment, to express frustration and concern over new and controversial state education mandates. This sarcastic use of the phrase, which normally means excelling at a task, pointed to the absurd and inappropriate nature of the directives from State Superintendent Ryan Walters. Okay. And I'm guessing I probably took it the wrong way, but it just, I don't like, it's a prejudice of mine. When too many people say the same thing too many times, I start to smell a rat. Ryan Walters, I won't get into that. Let's just say that I could totally understand why some people would want to protest him, and leave it at that. PvP, I'm an old 70s punk. Question authority was a saying then. It was. But now the same people who told us to question authority, I mean, Bernie Sanders, we have pictures of him being arrested at a protest. And I'm not saying that to diss Bernie Sanders. I'm just saying now that same group of people is the one that's saying, well, you don't have to question our authority. We've used it for your good and your benefit. And I don't know. This began after a SkyTook teacher gave a religious-themed world history assignment following Walter's mandate that every teacher should carry and teach from the Bible. Okay. The teacher was subsequently fired. I may need to look into that. Truth is absolute in some things. Gorilla, sorry I disappeared for a while. I had to go hang cloths up on the line. Ended up having to restring it. Yes, truth, it's a truth. Murder is evil. Now, it is also true that there are legitimate times for taking a human life. And I'm sure that the shooter would be all about that. But outside of those legitimate times, I would suggest that any killing is murder. And any murder, basically murder is evil, unjustified ending of human life. Attacking children is evil, unless it's Kenny on a Godzilla film. I'm just teasing. Abusing your partner is bad. Divorce decree. Yep. Can you shoe Bernie with can you show Bernie with a mohawk? All right. Let's get back to what Charlie Kirk is saying here. I agree with him, but maybe we're the ones that are wrong. That you don't disqualify truth just because the speaker is flawed. The irony is the other side will say that. I know Kamala's flawed, but she said the truth. I know Obama's flawed, but he says the truth. But it doesn't work the other way. Our people have to be absolutely perfect, absolutely without flaw, or anything that they say is not worth hearing. Doesn't matter how well spoken, doesn't matter if it's ironclad. Trump, for example, does not matter what he says. He's just an idiot. He's just evil. And just the fact that he opens his mouth proves it.
So it is a straw man red herring argument to attack the document, the text, or the ideas just based on the sins of the people that wrote it. So I noticed the number one critique of the U.S. Constitution, they say, well, it was written by slave owners. Sure, they were involved in horribly.
Okay. So he points out the logical fallacy, the very specific logical fallacy it's a red herring. In other words, we're trying to talk about how the Constitution is good and just and the best thing that we've got. Well, yeah, but it was written by slaveholders. That has nothing to do with the argument whatsoever. The Bible was written by slave owners. The Bible was written in many cases by people who believed that it was right to take someone who disobeyed their parents, and stone them in the where in the street. With respect to the Bible, with respect to Christ and Christianity, I don't think that should be done. I know I may be a little arrogant there, but there are also truths in the Bible. And so I personally should dig for those truths. Now, the Constitution is the real document we're talking about, and it's the one that none of us, I think, are divided on the Constitution. So, yeah, ad hominem. Yeah, it's really more ad hominem. I would agree with you honestly with that. Although I feel a little cringy disagreeing with Charlie Kirk about it. But yes, you can think of it as red herring, but it to me is more of an ad hominem, because essentially ad hominem is when you quote unquote discredit your opponent just by throwing out an insult, and the insult may have something to do with the truth, or it may not. The classic example, well, no, I won't use that example, but I feel sometimes like this is what's being used with Donald Trump. No matter what he says, well, he's a fascist. Well, he just wants to be a dictator. I think a lot of those statements, I think 90% of those statements are ad hominem. Well, I can back it up with facts. Maybe, but we're still arguing, completely different. It's basically a tactic to take you off of the argument, to distract you from the argument, and to completely dehumanize and delegitimize the people arguing with you. Hello at LDG Free the Net. Howdy, howdy, and how are you doing? PvP. I don't care about assholes that justify Charlie's murder. He tried to educate. He did not deserve what happened. Check Facebook Messenger. Okay. Facebook. I probably need to check on the other. Here we go. Sent I wish I could get, my computer won't take that Facebook for some reason. That's awesome. Remind me. I'll try to either get that. You know what? Here's what I'll do. I'll send it to myself. Maybe. Copy here. Email. Compose to Curtis W. Selby. And where are you tonight? Why did you leave me here all alone? My phone really sucks sometimes and makes me real sad. You met another and you were gone. Where's the attach thing? All right. I am evidently too stupid to get that over to myself. All right. Let's get back to the chat. PvP, does anyone get this happening? This happened the day before 9/11, 24th anniversary. I wondered about that myself. I really did. Yes, Matt. In pretty nearly every case, if someone is not addressing the argument, it's because they're losing the debate. Yeah, I'm going to admit I have been guilty of that, and I'll probably be guilty of it again. But it's true. Usually, when someone isn't addressing the actual argument, it just means that they're losing the debate. I still think the killer might have known the symbolism. I too wonder about that. LDG says he's doing good, has another announcement. Ooh. Okay, everybody, we need to pay attention to LDG's different accounts, his Twitter, and I can't remember if you're on Facebook, but his Twitter and his YouTube. He has an announcement. I am so excited. Okay, the right needs to get a strategy. Indeed. Indeed, they do. All right. Let's see what further things he has to say about the Constitution.
Bigoted practices at the time, which eventually some of them regretted, actually, and they released some of their slaves towards the end of their life. Irrelevant. Talk about the ideas. Why is the Constitution the greatest political document ever written? Well, because the founding fathers were the first successful political rebels ever to give power back to the people instead of keeping power for themselves. They could have.
Okay, I hope everyone caught that, because I he says we're the first. I would almost say that we're nearly unique. It's very rare for any revolution. Karl Marx talked about it, and he actually did a great job talking about it. History is this almost never-ending revolution, the revolving of a wheel, where you have the people in the high positions and the people in the medium and the people in the low, the poor people. And the high is basically just oppressing everybody below them. And the medium people go to the poor people and say, hey, if you will help us take the positions of the high and kill them, and we'll replace them, and your life will be better. And then the poor help them. And then what either happens is the high ruthlessly ends the revolution, and everyone except the rich ends up suffering badly, or the medium people do overtake the high, and then they forget all of the promises that they made. You can find it so often in history that it's almost boring, but it is sad, and it's very telling about the human condition. Most of history is that dynamic. In my humble opinion, the American Revolution is the most obvious exception. Possibly the English bloodless revolution. And other than that, it doesn't happen very much. It really doesn't. Match you with another strategy. We already control the police, the military, 99% of the food production, drinking water supply, 90% of the infrastructure maintenance. What more do we need? Good point. Good point. Maybe the only thing we're missing is the education, but at the same time, if you've got the police, you got the military, you got the food and the water. This is going to be controversial if it gets to the wrong ears, but I listened to an interview with someone who I had kind of villainized. So take these words with a grain of salt. But Eric Prince was talking about if there was a civil war. He felt like it would be between cities and rural areas, but he felt like under the circumstances we have right now, that the right, who would be the rural areas, would win. It would be brutal, it would be horrible, but because of the things that you've pointed out, right now we do have the police and the military, not all of it, but enough. And we have most of the food production and water supply. So poor people, hello, right? Matchy, would 100 rednecks with bulldozers could shut off all food going into the blue cities in 2 days. Not wrong. Not wrong. So, but again, my hope is still to avoid civil war. But if it does come down to it, I'm no longer, I'm not pacifist enough to say, well, let's just roll over and die. If it did come down to war, it would have to be, like any war, it would have to be brutal and horrible. So that's what war is. That's why I so desperately hope we can avoid it. And this was Charlie Kirk's hope, I believe. All right. So the greatest document, why, he just dives right into that. He's not even, he doesn't waste time like I usually do with trying to prop up the principles. He's just like, this is the greatest document, and now let's say why.
Created a monarchy for themselves, the Jefferson, Washington, Hamiltonian monarchy that would have kept amazing amounts of people under perpetual power basically forever. So what did they do? They decentralized that power, and they said, we're going to give that power back to the people. And they said,
do you notice that I can't even understand what they're saying, but the very few people who are protesting him are just trying to shout him down. They're not, as far as I can tell, they're not giving any actual principled debate. They're just trying to shout him down. PvP, another topic, the lie. Ooh, I know one person that's going to take issue with you, but I don't. The lie that Israel is starving Gaza. Seen videos of reporters going in, showing tons of pallets the UN should have distributed. Gorillas sent me a really good video where these two guys were debating. It was on Tim Pool's channel, but it wasn't Tim Pool who was moderating. It was somebody who works with Tim Pool, and the moderator did a good job too. Anyway, where I'm going with this is the person that was defending the Palestinian ideal just basically said that all of that was photoshopped and lies. Just like, I mean, again, I'm so tired of that argument because I can show you times and places where it's proven that the left photoshopped things. It's on Snopes. But that doesn't invalidate their arguments for some reason. But I'm supposed to just shut up because whatever it is that I'm using to support my ideas, that was just photoshopped. Another was a Hamas guy showing the market with lots of food. PvP can't tolerate Jew haters anymore. All right. And I know that Charlie Kirk had hard words to say about certain segments of Zionism, for lack of a better term, but I don't remember him ever saying that the state of Israel needs to end or anything like that. He said reasoned things. Anyway, let's go on.
well, let's study human history. Well, what happens when human beings get power? Well, usually a really bad person accumulates way too much power way too quickly, and that civilization goes through the traditional arc. They studied the Roman Empire, the Greek Empire, the Chinese Empire, the British Empire. They said, we're going to try something fundamentally different. We're going to have checks and balances. We're going to recognize natural rights. And because of that, they created the...
Ooh, checks and balances. Oh, we don't like checks and balances. I'm kind of being unfair here. I'm sure that's not really what they're saying, but it's the impression it's giving me. PvP, it's not our problem anywhere. A government should not be involved with foreign entanglements. Yeah, I agree with that. I do. I definitely have some very mixed feelings about things. Yeah, I'm still a libertarian when it comes to foreign policy, anyway.
The Electoral College, they created the House of Representatives, the U.S. Senate, but they also understood they didn't necessarily get it all right, which is why I love the 10th Amendment, the capacity for states' rights, the capacity to amend the U.S. Constitution. But also, if you look at the Bill of Rights, it recognizes that the rights come from God, not from government, and it's government's role to protect our right, not to encroach our rights. It's the first political document ever written that says what government cannot do, not what government gives out. So you have the right to consciousness. Essentially, you can say what you want to say, how you want to say it without being interfered by someone else. Essentially, my favorite amendment, the Second Amendment. Who loves the Second Amendment, by the way? We all love the Second Amendment.
He is obviously hated and divisive. I mean, look at, you can just see that there's tons of people hating him right there. PvP, the USA is the only nation supporting Israel. Matt Cheatwood, the US should absolutely not be doing that. So, and I don't want to get into the debate here, but let's just say I respect both of you, and but I have my own opinion, and leave it at that.
Love.
Boo!
Love.
Love.
Because you
Love.
needed an amendment to protect all the others. The Fourth Amendment, a right to privacy, so on and so forth. The Constitution was not written for the times. It was written to stand the test of time. Because despite how technology continues to advance, human beings stay exactly the same. We are self-centered, broken by nature, envious, narcissistic individuals that will always try to serve our self-interest. The Founding Fathers realized that there was this pattern, so they developed a system of government that would decentralize the evil as far as possible and try to have the most representation imaginable. That's why the Constitution is the greatest political.
Yes, and remember we talked about that when we read the 10th Federalist paper. Essentially, they were trying to make sure that there were not so many people in the representation that nothing got done, but that there were enough that liberty was basically as guaranteed as was possible. PvP. Canada, the United Kingdom, France, Australia will all recognize the terrorist Palestinian state. They are wrong. Gorilla's random thoughts. Problem with foreign entanglement is people window shop which atrocities we're to be appalled by and which ones to ignore. Hey, thank you. I again, I'm largely a libertarian when it comes to foreign interventions and things. Don't get me wrong. I love Israel. I want Israel to be peaceful and strong and for their people to be happy. I want the Palestinians to be peaceful and happy. I just don't think that they can be peaceful and happy as long as they allow themselves to be run by terrorists. And I know that that may offend some people who I care a lot about. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I think that's the case. I do not think. Does Israel do some evil things? They do. Does that need to stop? Yes. But frankly, I believe that 2/3 of the problem, if not more, would go away if the Palestinians could somehow bring themselves to say, hey, these terrorists really aren't governing us in a way that's to our best interest. And I know the whole argument, well, yeah, but Israel is they're whatever you call it, I'm having a senior moment, but basically they're the ruling power over us, over someone else, and that's bad. They have the right to revolt against that, and I'm okay with them having the right to revolt against that. But raping of women and burning of babies, well, that didn't happen. That was Photoshopped. Oh, here we go again. Okay. PvP, if Israel falls, the West will fall. That includes America. That's an interesting, that is a point that needs to be debated, but I'm not the one to debate it with you. I do feel like if America falls, Israel, that's a tough one. I don't know. I believe they're important for spiritual reasons, but I don't know. And it's another good point. I don't mean to equivocate on my principles, but this is a good point. Was fighting Hitler foreign entanglement? It's a good question. I'm not going to try to answer it here, but I don't mean to cop out. It's just not the subject. The U.S. was fine for 200 years without Israel's existence, and that's another good point. You know, Israel's never started a war, don't care. They've offered to make peace many times, which is true. Israel can stand or fall on their own strength. And PvP, the Palestinians refused over time. All right, back to Charlie Kirk. Again, he's defending the Constitution by saying the truth, that at least the effort was to minimize the evils of men and to try to maximize the positivity. They wanted a strong government, but they wanted enough checks and balances to make sure that the evils, tyranny, all that was minimized.
Document ever written. And you've seen with it the copying across the world. Civilizations that copied the US Constitution, even in its smallest sense, have seen an unbelievable advancement of political, economic, and human freedom beyond any sort of comprehension, any sort of neo-Marxist, postmodernist utopia that has tried.
I believe that to be true. I haven't sat down and gotten examples for you, but I do think that is true. Israel is a great example, I think. Moira has rightfully pointed out that there's plenty of times when they kind of crap on their own constitution, but instead of just taking the Old Testament and saying, okay, we're going to run our government this way, they set up a fairly Republican style of government. It's not exactly like ours, but it's got a lot of similarities too. And in spite of all the war and fighting that goes on, they have a profoundly great economy, even though they're surrounded by enemies. Now, of course, I know what some people are going to say, and there's some truth to it. There's some truth to it. There's a lot of big pockets that are financing them. Some of those big pockets are bad, evil people. Some of them are globalists. I do get all that, and I do get that that's true in a lot of cases. But I think his point. I think his point is true, and I think if I just sat and researched, there would be example after example of countries that have improved by taking even just a few of our principles and running with them.
Try to be creative.
Okay, so that was one of his defenses. I've been running on for a long time here. 2 hours and 38 minutes. Do you guys want me to continue, or are you guys ready for me to call it a stream? If you want me to continue, I'll play one more Charlie Kirk video. Or actually, I'll read something. But I'll give you guys a moment to decide. If you want me to read from the usconstitution.net on who was Charlie Kirk, or do you feel like we've got this topic down, that Charlie Kirk tried to debate, tried to defend the Constitution, did a pretty good job with it, and basically was assassinated by someone because he was making an effective use of the Socratic method. PvP makes another good point. Again, it's off topic, but it is a good point. Why will no Arab country take in Palestinians. Egypt has a wall against Gaza. Matt Chewood, I don't really care. And I get what you're saying. It's not that you're being inhuman. It's just that's not the focus. I don't really care about Palestine or Israel. I'm more concerned with saving the U.S. from Marxists. Yes, I don't think it will do a lot of. I think if Israel, if Israel falls, will it suck? Yes. Will I hate it? Yes. But I do think the United States could go on. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's some spiritual something that I don't know. But from a natural perspective, I think we could go on because, as Matt pointed out, we went on for almost, for well over 150 years with no Israel. But I think if the United States falls, Israel's screwed. They're just screwed. I know they're good fighters, but I don't think they would last very long at all. The Marxists are the globalists. Yeah, Matt knows that. PvP, I have no life. I don't have much of one either. In fact, I need to cook something and eat here in a little bit. Transition to a Dark Shadows watch party. All right. PvP says, "Give me more Charlie." Does anyone else have any thing to say, or I'll just read one more thing about Charlie. Israel doesn't seem to need any help from the U.S. or anyone else fighting Hamas. Yeah, the point. I mean, I think we fund them a lot, but I do think that a lot of their fighting is on their own. This is one of the reasons why I know I'm the great equivocator. I have mixed feelings, but my gut, look, it was awesome. And the shallow part of me is like, yeah, we took out Iranian nukes. Yeah. But the centered intellect in me says that was intervention. I don't like Iran, but I don't feel like we should have done that. I'm not going to condemn Trump. I'm not going to change sides, but I feel, to me, that I'm with JD Vance. And again, I know he would say the same thing. Trump's the boss. It's his call, but I feel like he made the wrong call in this case. I understand and respect those that would say, well, yeah, but there were nukes and we can't allow Iran to have nukes. And I know I would have said, I would have been on the very same side of that issue 30 years ago because I was so terrified that Iran was going to have nukes tomorrow. My argument to myself, because I'm a narcissist, is that it's been 30 years and they still don't have nukes. Maybe that is because Israel keeps bombing the crap out of them. I don't know, but at the same time, maybe we don't need to. It's like global warming. Maybe we don't need to get inappropriately excited about things every year because Iran is supposedly days away from having nukes. Europe is overrun with third world assholes. You are correct. Well, overrun is maybe a bit of an overstatement. I don't know. Let's just say there's enough that it, as my ex-mother-in-law would say, concerns me. Yeah, they probably will come for America once they have Europe. Yes, more Charlie. Okay, we got two people. Do we have a third person? Gorillas, we made Charlie an honorary Walton last night. I've always said we need more Waltons. Yes, and why aren't those parents doing something about that? PvP, did you see the stuff that terrorists were doing to activate sleeper cells? Oh, wow, Matt. I don't give two craps about sleeper cells. Matt Chi, with 40% of the U.S. is a sleeper cell, heavily armed and angry as hell. Not wrong. Not wrong. PvP, you need to pay attention. I think he is. He's paying attention. I'm not trying to get in y'all's business, but PvP, Iran even said a few months they were working on the nukes. Yeah, they're working on them again. Let's read about who Charlie Kirk was, and then I'm starving, so I will call it a stream after that. Okay, I'll read about him if they'll let me. Okay, here we go. usconstitution.net. So this can't be a very old article. It's asking who was Charlie Kirk. So it's not more than 2 days old. A look at the turning point, U.S. founder and conservative activist. He was one of the most recognizable and powerful voices in modern conservative media. A young activist who built a nationwide political movement from the ground up before he was old enough to legally drink. To his millions of supporters, Charlie Kirk was a fearless warrior fighting for freedom on the front lines of America's culture war. To his detractors, he was a divisive and polarizing political provocateur. Following his death, many Americans are asking, who was the man behind the movement? Again, back to the chat for a bit. PvP, when they hit your city, they will. Matt, I don't live in a city. I love that. Matt Cheatwood, if they take out a city, who loses? The Marxist globalists. This, I'm so tempted to get off topic again, but I won't. But it's a good point. The globalists' main source of power, it's why they persecute farmers so much, is the cities. They think, and then hell, maybe they're right. If they control the cities, they control the world. So if the dumbasses that they've unleashed on their own people come for us and take out a city, it does mean that the rural versus urban, you've helped the rural. Just saying. And I've often wondered, how do these stupid globalists, and they're not stupid, they're dangerously intelligent, but just exactly what is their solution for controlling these thugs when they finally accomplish breaking the countries and making because those people aren't going to be compliant, are they? Am I wrong? Are the thugs going to be easily controlled? Who was Charlie Kirk? He was 31, the founder and executive director of Turning Point USA, one of the nation's largest and most influential conservative youth organizations. His mission was to promote conservative principles on high school and college campuses, which he viewed as bastions of left-wing indoctrination. I concur with that. His role, a prominent conservative media personality, nationally syndicated radio host, best-selling author, and a key ally of President Donald Trump. I watched a video the other day. He was nearly in tears when he was told that Trump won. The controversy. Kirk and TPUSA are known for their combative culture war style and have faced criticism over their funding, provocative tactics like the Professor Watch List, and rhetoric on race, immigration, and politics. What do you guys say to that? PvP, not everyone in this city is left. And they want thugs, so we will hide in our homes. Yeah. Matt Cheatwood, if you're not a leftist, you should have gotten out of the city you live in while you still can. Yeah. Not wrong. The making of a movement. Charlie Cook's story is an unusual one in politics. Raised in a suburb of Chicago, he developed a passion for conservatism. That's all, folks. He developed a passion for conservative activism in his teenage years. After being rejected from the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, he made a pivotal decision to forego college and become a full-time activist. In 2012, at the age of just 18, so he would have been rejected from West Point during the Obama years. I'm just pointing that out. May have nothing to do with any of this, but I think that's interesting. He founded Turning Point USA in his parents' garage with seed money from a conservative benefactor. Hey, if there's any conservative benefactors, I'll spend your money justly. Well, mostly justly. I do happen to need that subscription to the Playboy channel, but other than that, it'll all be justly. The organization's mission was simple but ambitious: to build a network of conservative student activists on college campuses across the country, providing them with resources and a platform to counter what Kirk saw as pervasive liberal bias in higher education. In just over a decade, TPUSA has grown into a political juggernaut with a presence on thousands of campuses and an annual budget in the tens of millions of dollars. So I'm sure that if you're on the left, you see that as bad. And I can respect that, but I would respectfully ask you to consider the incredible influence of George Soros over lots more than just education for the past 40 years. Come out of her, my people. Not everyone is rich enough to move, which is something to consider. Suit yourself. It's fact. Wish I was rich. Oh man. Yeah, I wish. And Matt Cheatwood, don't say you weren't warned. What? I'm poor as hell. I found a way. Yeah, Matt is not the richest, with no offense meant, but he did find a way, and that's one of the reasons why I respect the hell out of him. So, just saying. But I'm not meaning to get onto UPVP. Please don't think I am. I hate it when the kids fight. The architect, or maybe in this case, I should say when the parents fight. The architect of the campus culture war, Kirk's core strategy has been to take the culture war directly to the college quad. TPUSA has become famous for hosting high-profile, often confrontational events on campus featuring prominent conservative speakers. I know the one that I watched the most of was the one where he was with Vivek Ramaswamy, because that was my candidate when the primary was going on. And I thought they both did good, but I felt that Ramaswamy was actually better at connecting with the people. But they were both really good in that event. These events are designed to challenge campus orthodoxy and generate media attention, which I think they did. Kirk's central argument was that American universities are no longer places of open inquiry. And this is what really pisses me off. I wouldn't even care. I don't care that they're left-leaning. There's no longer freedom to question. There's no longer freedom to speak. It's not really science anymore. It's not really academia anymore. It's an orthodoxy. And that ain't cool to me. They're no longer places of open inquiry, but centers of left-wing indoctrination that must, and here's where the crux is he right about this, must be actively and aggressively fought. And to PvP's point, how do we do that? I don't know that I'm the one to answer that, which might be why nobody's sending me a super chat. But that's okay. Also, you all are like me, poor as hell, so I appreciate you guys. And no, PvP is not making a threat. He's not making a threat. That's not what he means by that. Matt's not threatening anyone. He's trying to warn them. PvP, that is true. My life is not yours. And Matt Cheatwood agrees. Your life is yours. Agreed. So play nice, nice, guys. Play nice, nice. We save the aggression for the left. One of TPUSA's most controversial initiatives was the Professor Watch List, which I'd never heard of before. It's a website that listed academics from across the country whom the organization accused of discriminating against conservative students and promoting leftist propaganda. The list was widely condemned by free speech advocates and academic organizations as a McCarthyistic tactic designed to intimidate and silence professors. I can understand that thinking. Having said that, if they really are targeting right-wing students and nobody's doing anything about it, then what are we supposed to do? And maybe it's wrong. Maybe we're wrong and the colleges are just all nice and happy-go-lucky, and my perception of them 30, 40 years ago was incorrect. But that is the way it has seemed to me. PvP is tired and going to crash. Alrighty, I get it. I hope you do rest well. We love you, PvP. I hope you don't. I hope you know that we do love you. When I'm done with this article, we'll call it a stream. A key ally of the America First movement, which I hate to say it, I know there's a whole world out there, but I am pretty much America First when it comes to our government, because I think we've put the rest of the world before us for a long time, and that was great and Christ-like at one time, but I think now it's time to stop. It's time to let the world manage their own things, and it's time to let the world pay for its own things. Charlie Kirk was an early and enthusiastic supporter of Donald Trump's 2016 presidential campaign, seeing in him a disruptive force that could shatter the political establishment. His political philosophy was a potent blend of traditional fiscal conservatism, calls for smaller governments and free markets, and President Trump's populist America First nationalism. He was a fierce critic of what he calls globalism, so am I, and a powerful voice for a more isolationistic foreign policy. And while I know we have to be careful about that, I am more libertarian than not, and think we should be as non-interventionist as we're able to be. This unwavering loyalty has granted him extraordinary access to the highest levels of power in the Republican Party and the White House. See, there he is, laughing at the left. He's such an evil guy. Anyway. Defining voice through his talk show, his books like The College Scam, and his massive social media following, Charlie Kirk has successfully tapped into the anxieties and frustrations of a generation of young conservatives who feel alienated by mainstream culture and higher education. And it's been going on pretty nearly my whole lifetime. His combative style and his passionate defense of President Trump have made him a hero to millions and a villain to millions more. Regardless of one's opinion of his methods or his message, his influence is undeniable. He has reshaped the landscape of conservative activism and has become a powerful and defining voice in the ongoing battle for the hearts and minds of young Americans. Yes, indeed, Matt Cheatwood. Free speech works both ways. If it applies to everyone. I think, I can't remember who said it, but free speech has to apply to the person that I just despise, or it isn't really free speech. Family and faith. Beyond his combative public persona, Charlie Kirk has built a personal brand centered on the themes of family and his evangelical Christian faith. And I understand that may turn some of you off, but that's just who he was. So in 2021, he married Erica Kirk, née Franzvi, beautiful woman, former Miss Arizona USA, podcaster, and businesswoman who is herself a prominent figure in conservative circles. And they have two beautiful children that you see there. She is a frequent speaker at Turning Point USA events and often joins him in his media appearances. Charlie Kirk leaves behind two young children, including a daughter born in 2024. Kirk often framed his political and cultural arguments as a fight to preserve traditional American values for the sake of his children's generation. And then there's discussion. We won't go into that because we've got our own. I bet I have way smarter people here than in there. Ha 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 ha. I can be arrogant. Ha ha ha. There we go. So I believe that is where we will call it, if that's okay. I'm getting hungry. I need to eat or I'll get grumpy. But later on tonight, I'm going to do a watch party of Who Dares Wins. And sometime soon, either tonight or maybe tomorrow night, because I have to work tomorrow, but sometime soon I'm going to do a karaoke because somebody paid to hear me sing, and I'll sing a minimum of 5 songs of their choice. And y'all are welcome to listen to me humiliate myself in song. And I have never seen Who Dares Wins, but it looks like a pretty kick-A film. So I want to say it's about the Air Force. But anyway. And Navy 2005, welcome. We're finishing things up, but I hope you maybe rewatch some of it if you've got the time and the inclination. I hope we said some things that are worthy of saying, and I hope we were respectful to Charlie Kirk. We stated our case. Maybe we weren't always respectful to the left, but I think all of us are respectful to the classical liberals who are just seeking the truth. But I think we're all quickly losing respect for people who don't have open minds and are willing to be happy at the death of anybody, really. Navy 2005 works tomorrow too. Oh, hey, it's Jacob from work. God bless you. Well, I'm almost done. Sorry. I hope if you heard any of this that I didn't sound too crazy. Maybe I am. And Matt Cheatwood, indeed, farming is a 24/7 job. I sometimes miss it, but yeah, it's let's just say I'll never get on to you and say, why weren't you in this stream? Because I know you're working hard. I know you're working hard. So, yes, everybody, please welcome Jacob from work. He's good people. So far, nearly everyone. I'm not going to be a jerk. So far, everyone I've interacted with has been pretty cool. So that's the great thing about a small town. Often you find a pretty good percentage of cool people, especially when they work. Matt wants to know, Jacob from work, do you know Jake from State Farm? And he says, yes, I do. That's fantastic. All right, let's wind it down. There we go. We need Ron Jeremy and some hot blonde. Curtis said right before he was probably demonetized anyway. I've got a lot of people to thank. So let me get through. Man, a lot of discussion. I love you guys. Okay. John Ponerero, pillar of several communities. Iplabnista, reminding me that Star Trek even will remind you of the importance of the Constitution. He also has some great music on his channel, so check him out. PvP also has some great music on his channel, so please check him out. He also is often on the panel with us, and hopefully will continue to be on the panel when we do Dark Shadows. And he's often on the panel with Gorilla's Random Thoughts on his various streams. Check him out and check out Gorilla's Random Thoughts. He was the designer of my opening theme song. Really good people. He's got all kinds of stuff going on, a leader and pillar in this community. He has the cigar lounges. He has lots of watch parties. The Sunday night watch party, which I used to go to. Now I work because I'm a big dodo head. And but he's got lots of stuff going on, so please check him out. Even though we have our side, yes, we also want to not become like the people we're criticizing. Some of the rhetoric on our side might just be a little too far. I know we're all upset. I know we all think it was a travesty and a tragedy, but we should not let hate take over our hearts. I know it's easier said than done because I've been there. I've had plenty of hate in my heart. So, all right, where are we at? People, scrolling down to see all the people. Oh, look at all the lovely people. Orville Nation. This is definitely someone you need to check out if you haven't checked him out already. He has two focuses. One is he loves the television show Orville, but he's also very big in self-help and self-improvement, but in an intelligent. I'm not saying he'll never talk about the woo-woo things, but he talks about it in a very based, very, down-to-earth way. Orville is wonderful people. He's given me great advice that has helped my channel through. So please check out his various live streams. He's been doing some live streams about all kinds of positive and life-affirming issues. I would really love to talk. One of my dreams is to interview him about goals or really any topic one of these days. So please check out Orville Nation. Not putting you on the spot, Orville. I'm just saying it's one of my I have arrived moment goals. Yeah, so Connie Cleary, someone who I have interviewed, and someone whose channel you need to check out. She's got the channel that I've clicked on where she has all these beautiful birds accompanied by beautiful music. Wonderful person, pillar of more communities. I don't even know when this lady sleeps. One of the best moderators. She won't ding you for just saying something silly, but if you're a real troll, you're out. She does not put up with crap, but she's very down to earth, very funny, wonderful woman. Takes care of some animals at a pet shop, and she has a second channel, Fluff Chick Productions, where she demonstrates some of the crafts that she does. I wish I had half of her talent when it comes to crafts. Man, it's wonderful. And she's a pillar of Dino's community with the late night horror show. I went to sleep listening to some old radio shows that I used to listen to as a kid, although I didn't remember those episodes, but it was very cool. It was very nostalgic. They got fired. And Resolute Germ, another wonderful creator here. Please check him out. He's in a lot of places. I need to my work schedule. Anyway, it is what it is. I'm glad I have a job, so I don't want to complain. Resolute Germ does lots of watch parties of cartoons and various other movies. He's off and on with Gorilla's Random Thoughts and Theta of the crap. Having a senior moment. I can't remember the rest of his title, but his screen name is Theta of the something. And it's a cool channel as well. I think I'm still a member of it. Although that may not go on much longer because I'm letting some of my memberships cancel because, I'm broke. And he's also often on with Admiral Teague, who does a lot of wonderful stuff with Star Trek. Does some of his own original material, so please check him out. If you don't smile at his channel, we will infect you with weird diseases. And now I'm scrolling again to DJ Ronnie G, another wonderful creator here. You can learn a lot by watching his channel. And I know I learned a lot about some issues. And I love his comment here. Peace and positivity? You mean like the university's actually in? I just didn't want to make him too different from who he is. I would hate to have a universe where there isn't someone like PJ. Just saying. But then I would hate to have a universe where there wasn't someone kind of like all of you. Especially Matt Cheatwood. He's more of an absolutist on this issue. When we were talking about the supremacy of the Constitution and the rights that we are granted by God, or whatever you want to call it. Matt does not do any material, or at least he didn't used to, but still, maybe think about subbing to him just to be good people. Booger414, Booger. I don't know that he has any material, but I know he's strong in the Klingon community. Kapla. We are living George Carlin's adage of all my crap is stuff and all your stuff is crap. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the positive comment. So many good people here. I hope I don't miss anybody. Have I missed anybody? I feel like there's somebody else. I got to keep scrolling. Ooh, Charlotte Nightstar the Werewolf. Wonderful, wonderful creator here. Oh, she's got all kinds of stuff. So if you like it, she's probably got it. She's got watch parties. She's got interviews with very interesting people. She writes novels. She makes music. Beautiful young lady, very talented, very creative. Sometimes her, PvP, Mikey Susie 4, and some other Jay Aldridge go on and party like it's 1999. So check her out, but not in a pervy way. Yeah, we don't need none of that. None of that. LDG is going to make an announcement soon. So please, if you haven't, sub to him and sub to his Twitter account. We need to keep an eye out because, dude, I don't know about you guys, but when he gets his app going, I do want to jump all over that. And let's see if we can make a place on the internet where we actually can have freedom of speech, freedom from the frickin' overlords that try to take down our channels and limit what we can say. Lots of debate going on. I hope it was mostly positive debate, but I know some of it probably wasn't. And Navy 2005, otherwise known as Jacob from work. God bless you. I hope you have done well. He's helped me out a lot at work, so there it is. And I have not checked to see if he has got any content. So y'all might want to think about that. What about Kenny G? Barnabas Quentin 2028. Matt Cheatwood. Curtis, I just want to say if you show up to a chess game and your opponent punches you in the face, you're not going to win by getting better at playing chess. I hate to say it, this is a good point. The left Marxist globalists have made it clear they're not going to listen or talk. That time is over. They've lost the debate and moved to violence. Yeah, it does seem like it's so. All right. Okay. On that note, I've gotten old and tired. I don't say all my spiffy thing, but I guess I will say some of it. It's been said that life is pain. And anyone trying to tell you otherwise is trying to sell you something. And it is true. I'm trying to sell you something. I am trying to sell you on my channel, but also I'm trying to sell you on the idea that liberty is better than slavery. Freedom is better than tyranny. And that you are, in fact, smart enough and wise enough to run your own life. You don't need to be told how to do it by big governments or big corporations or big religions either. Thank you very much, John Ponderero. You are the bomb. And yeah, now YouTube's going, Curtis threatened to bomb people. It's a figure of speech, YouTube. And unless you've watched The Tick, this may not make any sense to you, but I like to end most of my streams with the battle cry of the Tick. Spoon! God bless all of you, and I hope you have wonderful evenings. I hope I see some of you at my later night watch party of Who Dares Wins. Have a good night. Boom, boom, boom.